First, let's go to the news story that we haven't hit yet, and that is where do we get our energy? Where do we get our power from? I want to just point out that in California is so clear on harming the earth. They are so clear on that fossil fuels are so bad that they refuse to have any of their electricity that they know of being generated by coal power plants. Okay? Could I ask, if I said to you that some places in the United States are actually, they're not using coal fire plants. They are using bio-waste, including aborted fetuses, to burn it and make it into electricity. Now, we told a story a couple of weeks ago that one of the hospitals in England was doing this to provide electricity for the hospital, that the aborted fetuses are being shoveled in to the plant to be able to...
And had been for like 13 years or something,
and
right?
nobody said anything. And I was horrified by this. And I thought, look at where that road leads. Does this happen in the United States of America? Answer, yes, in Oregon. In Oregon, they are buying their electricity from a British Columbian company in Canada. That company uses aborted fetuses in the furnace to turn the turbines. Now, what is the name of this company up there?
I'm looking for the name of it. The admission came from the British Columbia Health Ministry, and so they apparently send the biomedical waste to the U.S. to be incinerated, and it includes cancerous tissue, amputated limbs, and fetal tissue. So the contractor. Let's be clear. Fetal tissue are aborted babies. Stop calling them fetal tissue. That's aborted babies. We are powering some of our homes in Oregon with aborted babies. One of the weirdest dystopian films that everybody knows.
It's people. Soylent Green is made out of people.
Okay.
Soylent Green is people!
Okay, so that was what happens to all of these people. We have all the old people. What happened to all these people? Well, they were going to a factory, and they were being ground up into food. Soylent Green. It was a company. Soylent Green. It was people. And that was a horrifying scene. Electricity is people. Your electricity is people. Your electricity is aborted babies. Think of that.
That's not you saying that, by the way. That is the British Columbian government talking about this, right, Pat?
Yes.
I want to know the name of the electric company. I want to know the name of the electric company that is using this. This is happening in Oregon,
and they send it to the U.S. to be incinerated.
I wonder if they have laws.
Yeah, I wonder if they've known. I wonder if they know.
I don't know. Maybe this is not the right point. I don't know. But to me, because you'll see people who are pro-choice will say, look, this is absolutely ridiculous. This is not what we support, blah, 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 blah. But what we need to realize is those are the people that are being inconsistent. The British, if you are pro-choice, why the hell wouldn't you throw fetal tissue to make electricity?
Yeah,
at least you're doing something with it.
Cancerous tumors.
Yeah, they're
why
nothing.
Do I care about cancerous tumors? Right. I don't care about cancerous tumors. Okay, I think that
just the ick factor should prevent that.
Yeah,
but why is it icky?
Wait a minute.
If you believe
if
you're pro-choice.
But hang on just a second. I have a problem with even the cancerous tumors because
I do too.
You're violating the sanctity of humans. Mm-hmm. Let's not take any human and turn it into something else. I don't even care if it's a bad part of humans.
But you're being consistent with that viewpoint.
Yes.
They are not.
Right.
If you think it's garbage, then it's garbage. Okay? If you think it's garbage and you think it's okay to kill it because it's not an it, well, then throw it in the incinerator.
Can I tell you something?
It makes sense from their perspective.
Our society is so upside down right now. We are on to use an example, our society right now is on the JFK Jr. plane. Here's a guy who thought if he would pull up, he would go up. But his instrumentation wasn't right. He was using visual signals. His plane was actually flying upside down because he had no visual and he had no instrument panel. And so as he is flying, his brain tells him, pull up. But what he did is he slammed into the water. We are upside down. And because we no longer have an instrument panel, we are no longer pegged on the Constitution. Guys, it's not just the Constitution that is hanging by the thread. It is now the underpinnings of the Constitution. If this nation goes dark, we will be known as the most horrific nation on the face of the earth. We will make the Nazis look like rookies because of our technology. We can do things that Hitler only dreamt of. If we must not go dark, I don't think we'll be allowed to, quite honestly. We are headed towards a Thelma and Louise end scene like I've never seen before. How? If the people left, right, it doesn't matter. This is not about politics. This is so far beyond who's president and who the Congress is running. This is you. This is you. Not to stand is to stand. Not to speak is to speak. This is you. This comes down now so far beyond politics that if you don't stand and say we should not be using aborted babies to make power, honestly, if that's what you're getting in your electric grid, it's time to go off the grid. If you know that is being pumped into your home and you can't stop it, it's time to go off the grid. Do not be a part of that. Is there anything more evil than that?
A story from 2007 about this waste-to-energy facility.
2007.
Stated that the incinerator burned about 1.764 million pounds of medical waste per year. The ironic title of the article, Burn, Baby, Burn.
Oh, my gosh.
And
wow.
Another point to be made is that there's well over 300 of these waste-to-power plants in the USA.
Now, we don't know that those are...
we have no idea.
Doing this?
I'm saying there's that many plants.
Your electricity is people. Oh, my. Victoria, B.C. The British Columbia Health Ministry has admitted that the remains of babies, aborted babies, that are aborted in hospitals up in British Columbia are ending up at a waste-to-power facility in the United States, providing electricity for residents of Oregon. The province health ministry said in an email to the BC Catholic that biomedical waste shipped to the U.S. to be incinerated includes human tissues, such as surgically removed cancerous tissue, amputated limbs, and fetal tissue. I'm sorry, you can incinerate that stuff? And I mean the limbs and everything else. You can incinerate it. You can cremate it, but you do not turn it into products.
No.
My gosh, how do we even have to say that?
You just said that on the air as if it was a point that needed to be made, and it is. It's a point that actually needs to be made in our society.
You will not recognize your country. You will not recognize your country. You give this another 5 years, and God help us all. God help us all. Please, I'm begging you.
Seriously, the lack of concern for humanity is
We're doing the EPA. Look at the story of the EPA doing experiments today on American citizens and lying to them. The EPA putting them into a room and closing the doors and the windows and pumping in carbon monoxide. Well, we all know what that does. We know what that does because that is exactly the experiment that the Germans did on people. Exactly the experiment.
And there's a long history of the United States doing experiments like that.
And we've always said We can't be a part of that. We always have to end up apologizing for it, making reparations, doing whatever. It's a black mark. But every time we go down this wicked, progressive rabbit hole, we start rounding people up, killing people, experimenting on people because it's the good of the collective. It is the power of the individual. That's it. And when I say power, God help me, I want to make sure you understand I don't mean that we take individuals and burn them for power.
I mean, and it's completely correct and important and vital to be outraged about, fetuses being used to generate power. But it should also draw you to a larger outrage, which is the reason why those babies are available to be burned in the first place. I assure you the baby is more upset about being killed in the first place than turned into power afterwards. And unless you focus on the larger debate, because this is just a shock, right? This is a shock that this is happening, but it's consistent with the worldview that allows a pro-choice stance. And it's consistent.
And that worldview has been worked on for a really long time. We've talked about people like George Bernard Shaw, who
the guy who came up with the original idea of a gas chamber. There must be some sort of a gas chamber that we could put the unwanted, unusable people in and destroy them.
Yeah, people who are undesirable. You make them come in front of a panel of people and prove that they're worthwhile. And if they can't, you put them down. People like Jacques Cousteau, who I grew up watching with the undersea world of Jacques Cousteau. I mean, you're used to him saying things like, the sea, the great unifier. I saw a pufferfish and I swam up to it and I said, your face is very fat, pufferfish, but I love you. You're not used to him saying world population must be destabilized, and to do that we must eliminate 350,000 people per day.
No, wait, say it in the French accent.
World population. Maybe we should do it with the undersea world music. World population must be stabilized, and to do that, we must eliminate 350,000 people per day. This is so horrible to contemplate that we shouldn't even say it. But it's just as bad not to say it.
No, I think you're wrong on that one, Jacques. And actually, I'm glad he said it. Now, here's the thing. I'm glad he said it.
Except none of us know he said it.
Except nobody knows he said it, and it's out there, so we, in effect, embraced him. Somebody who was the gatekeeper at the time. See, this is why the internet is so dangerous. The internet, we would not have had this story from, this story comes from the lifesitenews.com. Life, Family, and Culture News. I've never even heard of lifesitenews.com. And then, so I'm reading the story, and they talk about another article that had come out in 2007, and that came from Willamette Live. I don't even know what that is, but an article in 2007 from Willamette Live. This is the power of the internet. It gives you access. It requires you to do work to say, okay, who is that gatekeeper now? Who am I getting my information from? Is there any supporting evidence? Yes, there is lots of supporting evidence of this. And so now you have a choice. Do I do anything about it? Honestly, if Texas is doing this, if this is the grid, I am going out and I am buying giant generators for my house. I will not put aborted fetus power into my house. That makes me a co-conspirator.
Again, can you believe you just said that?
No. We are at Soylent Green as people. We're at that moment with Charlton Heston. Soylent Green as people. Let me go to...
People. Soylent Green is made out of people. Soylent Green is people!
When I first heard this, Pat and I were working together in the 90s, and I said, I've never seen that movie. He's like, oh, it's great, you have to. Now, the only reason why I said I don't know that movie is because he played that clip. Well, that's like the last line.
Yeah, that's the whole
point of the movie. And so the whole movie,
kind of
I'm like,
it's people.
A little bit. It's people. It's people.
It doesn't have quite the same effect.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
No, it's like knowing that he's dead in The Sixth Sense.
Yeah. And I brought my kids into it, and I'm like, Pat says this is a really good movie. And they're like, what's the movie about? And I was like, I don't know. It's Soylent Green. It's people. It's people. And so now, like, my 8-year-old was like, it's people. So don't bother watching it if you haven't seen it. It's people. Let me go to Joe in Grand Rapids. Hello, Joe.
Hi, thanks for taking my call. I just want to point out real quick, my uncle works in the power plant system, and this is how he explained how the system works to me. Basically, whatever power that any power plant produces, they sell to a giant pool of power, or they use it in the city where they're at. If they need more power, they purchase that power from that pool. So the waste-to-energy plant over in Oregon is getting all the publicity because they're creating the power itself. Where that power is going is to the grid, and anybody that wants to use that power or needs it, they just pull it off.
Well, that's what we've been saying, how stupid California is. They say, we're not going to build any coal-fire plants, but they buy their power from other states, and all the coal-fire power plants are in those other states. So
Right.
It's a way to cleanse themselves, but
Happens all over the world. In Europe, they do the same thing. They have all this power solar power that's only working during the day. When they need the power at night, they buy it from other countries who are producing it through coal.
think of this. We won't use nuclear energy. Nuclear energy, even the people who are against nuclear energy will admit that the 3 Mile Island incident that we think is, oh my gosh, that was the worst nuclear accident in American history. It killed exactly 0 people. Zero. Like 15 years ago, one of the guys who was the head guy leading the charge against this admitted, actually, 3 Mile Island worked exactly the way it was supposed to. Yes, it did melt down, it did have a problem, but it was entirely contained. The system shut down and it worked. We won't use the cleanest energy ever developed. Something that has a record of killing exactly 0 in the United States. Sure, are there problems in Russia? Have you seen the ZIL?
They had no containment facility.
They no containment facility. They had to put a sarcophagus around that thing. They don't.
Even so, 56 people died.
56.
Yeah, but still,
You don't want any.
you don't want any. You don't want any.
Right.
So we won't use that, but we'll use aborted fetuses. My gosh. The problem, you know what the real problem is once you know, what do you do about it? Mm-hmm. Once you know, that's the problem. And they try to overwhelm you. Once you know, what do you do? And I'm telling you, you just have to stand as long as you can. You fight the battles where you can make a difference. You speak out against it. Don't let your name be put down in these books.